Okay, so this is Noah from Perpetual Shelves. I don't have a mic right now, so hopefully this video is all right. If not, that's crazy. But I'm not gonna do a booktube video today. To be honest, I don't read fast enough to like consistently do booktube videos. I've considered trying to speed it up, but then I would feel like I'm putting out content for content's sake. Not the biggest fan of that. And I know this channel has the word shelves in it, and what I'm about to talk about doesn't involve shelves. But I'm a college student, and I was gonna talk about the pros and cons of academia. Is that how it said? Yeah. So I don't have any notes. I have coffee. Let me see. So I'll start off. I go to a school in the Midwest/South. I think we have around 30,000 something, 20,000 something enrollment. I don't know if that's the proper grammar, but it's a pretty decently sized school. I don't really necessarily know what it's known for. I know it's probably sad, but my degree is not in what it's known for. I'm an English major, unfortunately. I'm just kidding. And I do know, and this might like dox myself in a way, but I think my school's creative writing program is like the third oldest in the US. I think number one's Iowa, but I think my school's number 3. Yeah. So, and being in school is brought a lot of joy to my life, as cheesy as that sounds, in a lot of ways. The schoolwork sucks sometimes, and yeah, there's a lot of burnout associated with school. But to be honest, I don't think I'd change it for anything right now. I'm gonna give you some context. So the main topic of this video is pros and cons of college, pros and cons of school. But for context, I didn't go to college until I was 24. I got out of high school, got my own apartment, worked in retail for a little bit, worked at a bar, and then I noticed I wasn't very fulfilled, and I had a lot of anxiety around like what do I want to do. I don't want to just keep working, like I feel like I can do more than that. I feel like that's a pretty common thing. I felt like I could do more. I wanted to do more, but I didn't know how for a while. So for probably like 22, 23 years old, I was just like, should I go to school? Should I not? How am I going to pay for it? This and that. I know on FAFSA, when you're 23 or younger, you have to like put your parents' information on there. And I had a parent who made a lot of money. And so I wasn't going to get very much help. I was basically going to have to just pay my way or just not go to school. But I eventually worked for a while, got to be 24. Decided I was going to go enroll at a local community college. In my first semester, I took 2 classes, like 6 credit hours. And it was kind of weird, having to go. It was online. But it was kind of weird the first semester, like, oh, this is like a whole other, like, this is like a part-time job, basically. I took general psychology, and I think composition 1. And funny enough, my comp 1 teacher was a teacher who taught at my high school, and he was like, oh, I remember you. Like, he didn't teach me, but he remembered me, and we had to like do the videos and video introductions. And he recognized me, but that's not really what this video is about. But yeah, so I've been in school since 2021. I usually take anywhere from 15 credit hours to as little as 6, because I'm an adult and because I am classified as an independent student, meaning you're like you're older than the average person, you're independent. I can't always just take like 15 credit hours, nor can I've had semesters where I couldn't take a class because I had to work during the time, But my first pro, the good thing about college, one of my first pros is I've learned that I'm a creature of habit, I'm a creature of routine, and having to wake up to do assignments and having to wake up because you have a deadline, Some people can't do that. I feel like it's worked for me and kind of helped me feel more fulfilled, better about myself. Knowing that like it's kind of like a progress check. When you have something you actually have to do and turn in and work on, study, instead of just going to work every day, that can actually help you feel really good. Like, hey, I'm getting something done. Hey, I'm doing this every day. I'm waking up and I'm studying my vocab, that was really nice. And like school's not necessarily, I can't say this for everybody, but school for me has not necessarily been hard. It's more just a lot of busy work sometimes. But I mean, half the battle, if not more than half the battle, is literally just showing up to class. Half the time you can show up to class, not do shit, and make like a C or a B. I'm that guy. I don't want to say I overachieve, but I do show up. I try to do good work. I don't necessarily do a lot of like extra credit opportunities. I usually just kind of take my grade, whatever it is. But yeah. And then, so the first pro of going to college is, I think if you're a creature of habit and you like to have a really, really really, really rigid routine, I think college will help you. College will make you feel better. It's a lot of work sometimes. I took 15 credit hours on top of working 40 hours a week one time, and that shit sucks. I mean, I didn't really want to like kill myself or anything, but there were days where I was just like, man, like if I had any other hobbies or any other obligations, like I would be screwed. It was just like that one semester I'm talking about. It was like school, work, go to bed. That was it. Now, if you're not ready for that, you can always take, like a little bit less credit hours, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. Because then if you take less than like full time, you get different financial aid benefits. You get less money. The second pro of college for me has been making connections. That's a pretty simple one. Is if you're fairly sociable, I'm pretty introverted, but once I kind of get out of my shell, I'm like a little hamster wheel. I don't really stop talking. I've met a couple really cool professors. Like I had a lit class I took, and the professor in there, he kind of started out a little. He's very old-fashioned. He's put your laptops away, put your phones away. I'm gonna call you out if you're on your phone. You're gonna buy the physical book of everything we read in class. And so at first it was kind of jarring, just because, like a lot of us are used to using our phones, using our laptops. I'm 27, so I kind of grew up in that weird middle ground where you grew up not having a lot of technology, so you're kind of used to doing things by pen and paper, but you also, now you're blessed with having like computers and out the wazoo, but he was really cool. I email him fairly semi-regularly, maybe once every 2 months, 3 months, like, hey dude, like, hey professor blah, like, hope your semester's going good, how's your class, I've read this book and I really liked it. I've always like on and off read Shakespeare, but when I took his class, I read Midsummer Night's Dream. And like since that class, I've always like gone back to it, watched like performances. I went to see Shakespeare's Twelfth Night at the theater near me. And like I told him like, hey, this is like your doing. Like you helped me out. Like you kind of helped me like rediscover. I'm gonna sound like a cheesy English major, but Shakespeare is like dope as hell. He's low-key really funny. That dude's like 500, 600 years old, but he's funny. Yeah, and then this semester I have a creative writing professor and a poetry professor. I take 2 classes with the same professor. His name's Davis, and he's a really cool guy. He's probably in his 50s. He lives like 15 minutes away from me, south side of town. And I grew up near that place, so him and I have had kind of brief little conversations about like, hey dude, like, oh shit, almost fell. Like, hey man, like, Noah, whenever you grew up, did you remember this? Did you remember that? And I can sit there and say, yeah, I did remember that. I remember the clock shop down the street. That's a real conversation we had. He's really helpful. He's published a few books of poetry. He's kind of strictly poetry. I don't mind this, but some people wouldn't like it because they take his creative writing class and it's almost exclusively poetry, which some people, I've met people who they just like, oh, I've tried poetry, it's not really for me, and that's fine. I'm like 50-50, like fiction, poetry, every other thing. But I really like him. He's cool. He knows his stuff, and he knows how to talk about language and how words are used and when to use certain words to create certain effects. He knows what he's talking about. So connections, yeah, that's what I was getting at, is I plan on doing an MFA in poetry and getting to know professors almost like at a colleague level, which is kind of impossible, but you know what I mean? Like when you can address them by like I can talk to my creative writing professor by first name. And so like you do need signatures and you do need that letters of recommendation for master's programs, most if not all the time from what I know. And so it like helps you set it up. Sometimes I will say this might kind of loop back into the cons, but sometimes I guess in a way it might come across as fake because I have caught myself telling myself like, hey, I need to talk to this professor because I want his letter of recommendation, which you got to do what you got to do. But sometimes I'm like, man, I feel like that's kind of like, is that fake? Like, is that me being like performative? I don't know. But I mean, I'm helping myself out. So I feel like everybody do the same thing. Oh, here's a big pro. This is like this is really, really dope. You get student discounts on like everything. I can go see, there's a theater near me, not like a theater with movies, but like plays. I can go see almost anything I want for like $10, $15, including my girlfriend. Like I can get her like a ticket for like a student price when sometimes that shit's like $70. It's crazy. I get Spotify and Hulu in one package for like $5 a month. I can get Adobe Lightroom, Adobe Premiere Pro, Photoshop. I can get all that for like $20 a month instead of paying like some outrage. I swear the last time I looked for a non-student, it was like $100 a month or something like super crazy. Maybe not 100, but I also hopefully I'm fitting into the frame. I have no clue. But yeah, so that's like a big pro. If you're a Hulu watcher or a Spotify listener, go to school. You can get both for like $5. If you like to watch anime, there's a lot of anime on Hulu. I don't really watch anime. I think it's cool, but like go on Hulu. I think I can go to women's soccer games for free sometimes, depending on like the matchup. I can go to like student section basketball, student section football. I'm a little older than the average college student. I know that's kind of silly, but I'm a little older, so like I don't go to student sections. I'm not like 19 years old. That loops kind of into a potential con, but it could go both ways. I'm doing the Captain Morgan. I just realized that. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other pros. I don't have any notes. I kind of just like thought about this spontaneously. Yeah, you get cool stuff. Like it's a college, so like every day they're holding like symposiums, conferences. They ask for submissions for poetry pieces, for writing pieces, for nonfiction, for journalism. I have actually sat in on the public radio we have, the university radio, because one of my buddies, shout out Cecil, he works there and is like one of the, not like top DJs, but I think he's one of the most active. And like, I'll just hang out with him Wednesday night and like watch him do his radio show. I plan on doing it at some point because I'm like kind of a low-key music geek, not like hardcore. Like a lot of these people have physical collections. I don't own very much vinyl at all. I have like 6 records and they're all like the most random shit. But I do, I mean, I think on Spotify Wrapped, I listen to like 70,000 minutes of music or hours or something, like a lot. Eclectic tastes and stuff too, you know? And then, but you get a lot of like student benefits. Obviously, you're kind of paying for it. Like for transparency, I think I ended up having to pay like $3,500 to go to school this semester. And I had a lot of financial aid, which I'll get to that. That's another pro. The next pro is if you wait until you're older than, I think it's 23 or 24, and you go on your FAFSA, and if you're older than a certain age, you only have to put your information, which is a blessing in disguise, because if you're broke, this won't help you get like everything, but I had a year where I bartended, and I mean, I might have only made, this is sad, but I might have only made like 20K that year, like broke boy shit. And I got a Pell Grant from the state for like $3,500, and that paid for like almost the entire semester that I took in this scenario. I think I paid like $300 out of my pocket to take like 15 credit hours of class, and that's kind of crazy. Whereas if you're younger and you go to college at 18, you have to put your parents' information, and if you have rich parents, you're not getting that shit, because they're gonna be like, hey, your dad makes $100,000 a year, you don't need that help. So honestly, if you don't know what you want to go to school for when you're 18, don't go. Just don't. I understand that that's multi-layered. You might have parents that are telling you to go, and fuck, if they're paying for it, go. If they're not, don't. But yeah, so that's nice, is you get help. And then you sometimes qualify for student loans. You can do the student loans have a lot of negative connotation for understandable reasons. A lot of people are irresponsible, and anybody hearing the word loan, usually you're like, I'm staying away from that shit. Understandable. I personally actually had to take out a federal loan, which federal is way better than doing it through like a bank. I had to take out a federal subsidized loan for like $4,000 to do one semester one time. But all that means, is a loan. I do have to pay it back at some point, but subsidized loans through the government, you get your money basically instantly, but you don't have to pay them off until 6 months after you graduate. So if you're gonna ever take out a student loan, that's probably the best one to get. And yeah, you're gonna owe that money plus some because of interest. But this might be a hot take, but I think that if you want to be a professor, if you want to teach, if you want to go to school, if you have to go to school for anything you want to do, doctor, nurse, if you got to take out a loan, if it's a safe loan, safe by like, if it's a government loan, not like a private or a bank loan, take that fucking money out. Or don't. I mean, I don't know. I feel weird. I am not a financial advisor. I probably should have said that. But I just was like, for what I want to be, like, I'm going to have to spend money to make money. And so that's my take. Now I'm gonna go to the cons side. I don't think I've drank one sip of this coffee. Am I in frame? Let me check. Yeah, we're good, I think. The cons. I heard an animal. This isn't really, I don't know if this is actually like a bad con, but it's like a strictly for me. I'm about to look inwardly. I'll say it like that. But I'm a fairly anxious guy. On and off depression, stuff like that. Not bad. Been to therapy, done that. Shy. As funny as that sounds. I'm like surface level shy. What was I saying? Yeah. So because I didn't start college until I was older, I'm older than a lot of people in the classes I take. Not bad. They don't really give a fuck. Sometimes they think it's a little crazy, like, oh, like, you're 27? That's cool. I've learned the hard way, and this is not like me being mean, but I've learned that most of those people, they're gonna make a quick judgment of you, or they're not, and then they don't give a fuck anymore. Sorry for the language, but this didn't happen in community college, because community college is kind of meant, I don't want to say, man, it's kind of meant for people like getting back into school, like older people. But I go to a pretty big university in my state where a lot of people come in from Texas, Missouri, Tennessee, Kansas, places like that. And they come in as a freshman, they come in as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, and so almost every class I've had since I've been at the bigger school, which has only been 2 semesters, I transferred from community college, I have been probably the, if not the second oldest person. Last semester, I was only 1 year younger than one of my professors. That was kind of fun, because I think he knew that. He was 28, or he was 27 and I was 26. Yeah, that's how that works. Forgot how old I was. This semester, I'm pretty sure I'm the oldest in my creative writing class. And then in my poetry class, there's actually a girl who went back to school. I don't remember what her original bachelor's was in, but she came back to school to do creative writing. And she's probably like 40 something, and she's like really fucking hilarious. I sit kind of close to her, and sometimes she'll just like talk about shit and I'll laugh, and I was like, oh, that's funny. But to some people, that age gap might be kind of a distraction, because you come in there, you know you're older than a lot of people, you feel like you don't fit in, and then that feeling of not fitting in might make other problems worse. But what I'm about to say, I'm still getting better about this. I had to tell myself that these people are like, I'm sure my classmates are nice. I'm sure they're pretty progressive people, young people. But after that quick surface level judgment that we're all guilty of, like they don't give a fuck about your age. And going back to connections, like I've met a lot of people in my classes that are really bright, real smart. There's been some really talented writers in the classes I've been in. Some of them I think will go on to do great things. And that's another thing, is you kind of get in like writers circles, which sounds pretentious, and it probably is. But a lot of these people, like they'll do like a rough draft of something and it sounds amazing. And you're like, how in the fuck? Because I've always been a guy that I do most of my work in revision. My first drafts are like usually awful. It just sounds like run-on sentences, random thoughts, and then I trim it down. I trim the fat. I don't know if there's a word for that, but like there's a girl in one of my classes who, she's younger, whatever. And so like I'll admit, I've come into classes being like, oh, I'm the older guy. I've experienced more shit. And like some of the stuff they write, I'm like, damn, like it would have taken me like a week to think of that. And you just thought of it in like 30 seconds to write like a quick poem. I don't know. So like there's a lot of bright, in college, you get yourself around a lot of smart people. And that's really nice. You can use it to your advantage, not in like a manipulative way, but you can kind of know who you want to be around to help yourself out. Another con, there's the con of age gap. I don't even know if that's really a con. But I guess it can be one if you're like the nervous type, anxious type. Another con is sometimes there's a little bit of politics involved, and not like Democrat and Republican politics, but competitive, I guess is what I should have said, is you get people who, they want the same thing. They want the same professor to give them a letter. They want the same thing out of the class. And so you find yourself sitting there like, oh, like, I feel like I have to compete with my peers to kind of get the spotlight, you know? And that's not fun. Like, I'm a quiet guy in my class. I have a workshop class for creative writing, and I'll be honest, call it, you know, this might be defeating the purpose of the workshop, but like, I really don't say shit. I say a lot on paper. We have to take physical copies and write the comments that we have on our peers' papers. I dirty up that paper. I write comments galore, but I don't say anything out loud usually, just because it's like, hey, I don't want to say I'm above the system, but like, being older, I'm just like, hey, like, I would rather give my comments to these people one-on-one and have the opportunity to do so. I feel like that's more productive for me. I guess it ain't about me, but I feel like that's just more productive. It's just in a classroom and at a school, you can't really be like, oh, I want to get one-on-one with these people. There's just not time for that, unless you get their number and get their information. But half the time, I feel like doing that might make me come across weird. Like, there's a girl I used to have a class with, and she's another excellent writer. And I've legitimately, like, she works at the library. And I've thought about just being like, hey, like, I enjoy your writing enough to where, like, if you want me to revise your stuff, I'll fucking do it for free. I'll read it, give you thoughts, like, for free. I don't give a fuck. Like, I have Instagram, here's my number. But I'm a guy, she's a girl, so I'm like, I don't know if that's weird or not. But it's like a passion for the craft thing. But yeah. Trying to think about some other cons. I should have wrote some notes, but no, it's just like, school overall is really fun. I think if you need to go to school for what you're going to do, go. Don't think twice. Just live your life. You only live once. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other cons. Oh, yeah, the political thing. Like, I've also had professors where they'll tell me, like, oh, I'll send you a story for you to review. I'll send you this, I'll send you that. And then they don't. And you're just like, hey, man, like, this is probably a me problem. But, like, I had a creative writing professor last semester where I was just like, hey, dude, like, he was really cool. He was the one that was only a year older than me. And he gave us his Instagram and was like, hey, like, when the semester's over, like, I want everybody to follow me. And I followed him, and I even told him, I was like, hey, dude, this story you published, like, I really fucked with it. Just so you know, if you need me to, like, review something or not write, if you want me to revise or review something you wrote, give you comments, let me know. And he was always like, oh, I'm going to send you this, I'm going to send you that. Never did. It's been months. And so sometimes you just get to the point where you're like, I'm trying to be in the community. I'm trying to participate in the community, in the writers community. And sometimes the dominoes don't fall. And then you're just like, well, I don't have any connections. I don't have anybody to share my thoughts with. I mean, this is why I'm making this video, is I don't really, I have a girlfriend and a few friends, but I don't see them very much. I see my girlfriend a lot, but I'm trying to think. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I feel like there's more, but cons, I mean, oh, another pro to loop back around. Let me see where I'm at on time. 29 minutes, damn. Another pro, this is big for me because obviously I read and write a lot. Basically, you get a second library. There is a library in my town. It's a pretty big library. I think it's kind of known for being nice. I don't know. But then you get like the university library, which is really cool because the university library, I don't know if this is like a university library thing, but they have like really old editions of stuff, and it's not like valuable editions. They keep that in like the annex, like tucked away. But like, for instance, you can go look at Kurt. If you want to go check out a Kurt Vonnegut book. Every Kurt Vonnegut book they have on that shelf is like a hardcover first edition. Like, they take the dust jacket off, I think, for like, maybe that's so if someone steals it, I don't know. thinking it's worth a lot of money. But they have like first edition hardcover, like Kurt Vonnegut novels with like that came out when it came out. That's redundant, but and it's like really cool. They have like academic essays and academic work that you only find like on thrift books or Abe books for like a lot of money. Like, for instance, one of the weird ones I checked out was, I think it's In Praise of Criticism by Ivor Winters. They had that book, and while that book's not expensive on thrift books, it's probably like $20-$30 for a used book. I guess that's expensive, but you can't just like find that book. That might not be the title. It's like In Defense of Criticism, In Defense of Praise. I don't know. But like they just were like, yeah, dude, like we'll put it on hold, and you check it out, and it's like this funny looking blank ass book. There's no dust jacket. It's a tan, like when you put too much creamer in your coffee, that's like the tan. That's like the color of the hardback, the color of the volume, and it has no writing on it. Like it's just like blank shit. Fun fact: one of my favorite authors is John Williams, author of Stoner, Butcher's Cross, all that shit. This is gonna dox me. I don't really care, because if you robbed me, you get books or something. He died in the same place that I live right now, and his personal collection is at the library of my university. And so you can like request the books that were his to read on your own. And the Ivor Winters book that I checked out is one of them, and it has his signature in the front. This dude's been dead for like 35 years. And I'm like, did he ever think that one of his big fans was gonna get hands on his books? Maybe he did. But I don't know. Also, I'm out here because I do landscaping for work. I thought this would be a cool backdrop. It's kind of getting hot outside, and I got this big ass jacket. But no, yeah, that's the whole video basically. If you want to go to school, my closing comments will be this: if what you want to do with yourself requires school, obviously you're gonna have to go. If you can wait until you're older for financial aid reasons, wait. Don't feel pressured to go now, especially if you can't afford it. But just know, school is like another job. If you already have a full-time job, and you go to school, I think you can do it as long as you A, do nothing else, or 2, it helps to not have a significant other. I've taken 15 credit hours on 40 hours a week of work and had a girlfriend, and that shit is hard. There's gonna be days where there's strain on both of y'all. But if you can make it work, and you know in your heart that you can do it, then do it. But if you don't know what you want to do, then don't go. That's my thoughts. Currently, if we're going back to reading, I know I just spent like 30 minutes on not reading. Currently, I'm reading Old Jewels by Mary Sandoz. It's a nonfiction book about a settler from France, I believe, who settles in Nebraska and kind of like he roughs it, makes a living, starts growing corn, sees a lot of crazy shit. He almost loses a foot. I'm reading Geography 3 by Elizabeth Bishop. That's a dope little book. I do poetry. I read poetry sometimes, but I go really slow. I'll do like one poem per week, and I'll like make notes and like what I think about it. And you can't really just read a poetry collection like you can a book, in my opinion. The next book I want to read, I have Homer's Iliad. I might just do that. I might just go buy more books. I got a little bit of side cash from interest in my savings account. But yeah, thank you for watching. Look at the view.